But now we turn to some disturbing news. The new balanced budget amendment is on hold for now. A group of Republicans were supposed to unveil a proposed balanced budget amendment yesterday, but reportedly Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell wants to wait until all Senate Republicans are on board with a plan to force the federal government to live within its means. Here with the latest, Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee, who not only supports but has authored and spearheaded the balanced budget amendment. Senator Lee, it's a pleasure. Welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Thank you, Judge.
The balanced budget amendment on hold or on the ropes?
It's not on the ropes. There's just been a brief delay as to when we're going to announce it. There was some disagreement as to what the proper timing would be for unveiling it, and I think we'll be unveiling it probably within the next couple weeks.
I can't speak for you. Of course, I admire your work. I don't want to pick a fight for you, bloody somebody's nose in your behalf. But I don't think Mitch McConnell's in favor of the balanced budget amendment. He's the minority leader in the Senate, and that's why I think it's on the back burner. What do you think?
I don't know. I think he's supportive. I've talked to him at length about it over the course of the last few months, and he's been very supportive. I think he just wants to make sure that we unveil it at the right moment, and that's what we're going to do.
All right. How would it work? Suppose a future president, I won't even suggest a name, and maybe it'll be President Obama if this passes in short order, tries to spend more than the IRS and other government sources collect. But who will restrain him?
Well, of course, the president can't spend more than Congress has authorized the president to spend. And a balanced budget amendment would require Congress to adopt a budget that is balanced, subject to certain exceptions that are very difficult to meet. And so in that circumstance, first of all, there would be immense political pressure against Congress not to violate a part of the Constitution, remembering that under Article 6, each member of Congress has to take an oath to uphold the Constitution. But if it came to that, if Congress just violated it, presumably you'd have a court step in at some point and would declare a non-balanced budget void.
All right. Even though you and I know Congress has been violating the Constitution for 200 years, most egregiously in the past 60 or 70 years by claiming everything under the sun is somehow commerce and therefore regulable by the Congress. Do you have any reason to believe that they would be more faithful to the balanced budget amendment than they are to the Commerce Clause? I don't mean that as an unfair question. You know that because you and I are on exactly the same page on all of this. I'm just wondering how all this would play out in a practical day-to-day way.
No, it's a fair question, but here's the difference. Judge, what you have with the Commerce Clause being manipulated so as to justify the regulation of almost everything under the sun, including something as personal and non-interstate as where you go to the doctor and how you pay for it, you're dealing there with much more vague constitutional terminology than what we would have in a balanced budget amendment, which we've made very precise.
All right. Your colleague, Senator Paul, has introduced radical legislation which would eliminate 4 departments of the government, which would severely and deeply cut $4 trillion over the next 6 years so that there's actually a surplus which could be returned to the taxpayers or used to chip away just a little bit at the debt. Do you like this? And if you do, does it stand a chance of passing?
Yes, I do like it, and I'm supportive of Senator Paul in doing this. I would hope that either this or some other 5-year budget balancing plan would take effect. Look, if we can't balance our budget within the next 5 years, things are going to get a lot worse, and unemployment's going to continue to escalate. We've got to reduce and eliminate wasteful Washington spending. The only way that's going to happen is if we start putting ourselves on a course that will result in a balanced budget within the next 5 years.
All right. Last question before we go. Are we going to have another 2 or 3 week continuing resolution where the president is allowed to borrow $45 billion a week and the Congress just keeps putting off fundamental hard decisions? Or are we going to have a serious debate on the floor of both houses of Congress about the role of the federal government in Americans' lives and how much money the feds should be able to spend?
I fear that we're going to face yet another short-term continuing resolution. But one thing I can be sure of is that I will vote against it. I will vote against any spending proposal that does no more than just nibble around the edges of a massive problem. Look, we've got an annual deficit approaching $1.7 trillion. And I'm not going to vote for anything that perpetuates that kind of spending unless it undertakes some massive reform of the way that we spend money and puts us on a course to where we could balance our budget within the next 5 years. I'm voting against it, just as I voted against the continuing resolution last night.
Got it. Senator Lee, it's a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Judge.